we started.
Man,
man,
cheers.
cheers. Man, good to see you again.
Thank you for having me here.
And thank you for coming.
This is recording. And
I know you like
Nice
that.
one.
No, it is. Man, I know that you always like
Definitely.
busy. So definitely like thank you for coming by. But yeah, man, I've never been called
wait,
conservative until I moved here. Basically. But yeah, but you can relax. There's like no it's like not fixed at all, just chill. Chilling and drinking.
Good.
Yeah. But I've never been called conservative until I moved here. And so I guess in this case maybe this does fit.
Maybe this does fit.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Or maybe you're not or you don't see yourself as being like that conservative. You don't see yourself as being like that. I don't wanna say liberal. I'm just gonna say blue. Do you see yourself being that blue?
I think I'm more blue than what this blue is.
Yeah.
I think I'm even material blue.
Okay. I'm not sure whether to go like oh or
It's a very beautiful deep blue.
oh okay.
I don't know if you've ever you can Google it at some point and find the material blue.
Material blue?
It's
So
a
it's
very
like dreamy.
it's very deep ocean kind of blue.
Oh, so it's like peaceful and like tranquil. Okay. That's cool.
Also very dangerous though.
Yeah. Yo, is it like so not like the kind of shade of blue that's what's the name of like that city that's in Morocco? The
Yes,
blue city?
exactly. So those are the blues. Those are material blues.
Okay, so actually I think one of the stories I heard about why they did that was that like shade of like blue was supposed to be warding off bad spirits. Is what I heard. So are you trying to say that in your soul you're somebody that wards off bad spirits?
Probably.
If you say yes, I agree.
Probably.
I believe you.
Thank you. Whoa. Yeah, I mean, I have the kindness next to me, so I think it's fine.
Oh.
Tell me,
what you been up to though?
well, so since I think maybe it's good to tell a little bit the story of how the two of us met. In a way, we were working at the same company a while ago, and I have since moved to making my own company. So it's an agency doing management for artists here in Berlin called Heartfelt Management.
Yeah.
And I decided to do this at a moment where I felt I wanted to be able to be helpful to creative people a little bit more than through the work I was doing before, which was marketing for products. And I don't know, I've always felt music to be a very important part of my life.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to support the creation of music in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Creating music used to be a sort of calming thing for me as well. Creating something, usually using the laptop or just singing something on my phone or something like this. But I realized that I was not so patient when it came to production.
Okay.
So, and I was not so patient when it came to learning how to play an instrument actually properly.
Okay.
So, I have a big admiration for all of those musicians who actually have that patience and courage to keep on going and,
the perseverance.
Yes. Be able to play really well, be able to sing really well, be able to, to produce really well. For me, that's something that I can definitely not do. But I realize that I'm a very good listener.
Yeah.
In the sense of I understand what the music is maybe trying to tell me, or what a song or what something is trying to tell me, and how to communicate this to other people.
Yeah.
Which means I feel I'm able to support musicians to transmit what they want to transmit with their music.
Yeah.
And this is why management came into question at that moment. It was a quest of understanding what will be my role in the whole music ecosystem.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think jumping into doing this on my own wasn't exactly what I was planning to at the beginning.
Yeah.
I was very lucky to, from the very beginning, have the support of artists who thought that I would be good at this.
Yeah.
And believed in me into this, and that's how I jumped into doing this, actually.
I can actually definitely see that, because I remember one of the initiatives that you started had to deal with getting the equipment and everything into the hands of new artists, and like the programs, and it's going to be hard for me to beat around the bush, so I'm just going to say the Sketches program. No, which I thought was like really interesting, and I still like hate myself for not being able to like contribute to that at that time. But I think like when you approached me about that, it was just like a very weird time, because I think I was just kind of starting over there, but then I was also like having to like move into like another house or something like this at this time, so it was just like the time wasn't there, and also I was still doing like other like freelance work in addition to the place where we were working at, basically. So yeah, I'm just saying, like, I think that it was like a perfect thing, honestly.
Yeah, it wasn't, just to correct maybe there as well, like it wasn't my initiative completely, but I was part of the team working on this. As part of the team, we were looking to find just like very interesting people who could bring something new and something fresh to that. And I don't know, maybe you can tell also a little bit like your background in the whole music side of things, as I remember when we were talking at the time, you were very much into the experimental side of music.
Yeah. Are you asking me
Yes.
about talking about that?
Yes.
I mean, it's really hard to say, because it's always jumped around in so many different places. But it's kind of like this. I get bored easy. And I actually wanted to go back to what you were talking about, like the management, how you thought it was going to be with like multiple people. But yeah, so in shorthand, with me and my own personal music, yeah, I get bored really easy. I was always crazy into like hip hop, but I really was very frustrated with always, in that period, of always being able to pretty much predict what was about to be played. Like I could pretty much tell like in the first like 10 seconds how the rest of the song would go, because it would just be what kind of breakbeat is going to be used, what kind of extra kick to like spice it up, and like whenever somebody says a punchline, when they're going to drop out the beat. Like it got to a point where it was like way too predictable. But anyway, at that time I was still doing trying to writing and MCing and things, and I was even able to like freestyle at this point in time. Do not ask me to do that shit now. But I just got more bored, much more bored, and like the other like homeboys of mine that we had a kind of a group with, it was always this situation of, and I'm also like saying this much detail because I actually want to bring it back to you in the Heartfelt Management. So bookmark. So it was kind of like between the four of us, it was me and another that were like the primary people making things, but I still made much more stuff than he did, and he still actually did like a lot more like writing. The other guy, he honestly just is somebody that talks all the time, but he had like an amazing like freestyle, which I guess comes from part of being talking all the time. The other guy was kind of like almost like a person that was there that was almost like a hype man, but not being a hype man person. So the thing is that I was like doing all this stuff, and we would like have like ride arounds in the car and just do our own and see what everybody had been doing for the week.
When was this and where?
Oh, this was like back in high school.
Okay.
So I'm doing all this and making all this stuff, and then the thing is, I'm just automatically the weird one. Like I'm so the weird one, basically. It was just doing like weird time signatures. Also trying to make sure that the beat wasn't quantized. Because I just liked the feelings that kind of came out of it. A lot of dropped kicks, a lot of dropped samples and kicks, and everybody else was like, "The hell, like we can't do nothing to this." And so after about like a year of it being like that, I was just kind of like, why don't I just do my own? Because I've actually at this moment had like, I don't know how much material that I worked on. Like it was literally like 5 90-minute tapes of like different like beats and instrumentals, and like 2-3 notebooks of like rhymes, but it was just not something that they were like into. And so at which point I was kind of like, why am I depending on this so much? Like, and so I felt like the best way was just to go ahead and do it myself. In the midst of that and re-recording and doing all of this, I got super bored, and it was too predictable for myself. And so to kind of branch away from that, I kind of slowly started to get into like this sort of trip hoppy and spoken word kind of thing. But then even that became like very like predictable, and then eventually, long story short, it was like a lot of different phases, and it became this sort of industrial free jazz kind of thing that was like born out of like hip hop. So when like touring and playing shows, it was generally with like a lot of like no wavy and punk bands, and like pretty much everybody was always just like weird as shit, basically. But in the middle of that, I was also into very conceptual art, basically. So I did like a lot of art shows with it as well. So it was a mix between doing like sound and other art installations in galleries, as well as sometimes just simply playing in a gallery. To this day, the place that has paid me the most has been a gallery for like a single show. And so it just is always like evolved. But in the core of it all, to be honest, to me, it's still like hip hop. Like I still, there's certain like equipment that I can never sell just because it gives me like that feeling, and like there's a certain cadence to the equipment that's there. I mean, of course, I might have expanded at this point in time, and it's become its own thing. But yeah, no, I completely loved it, and I think that this sort of like experimental side was always like a little like thing that was always in like hip hop in a way. I mean, you have to think about it. It was just kind of trying to make something out of nothing, and this is where it was. And then when you had the equipment, you didn't necessarily have the best equipment, and so like with all of the, I don't want to say errors, but the imperfections that were in the equipment were very like noisy, and that kind of carried over into the rest of like my compositions and productions, basically.
And right now, for example, what would be your to tool to use? Like that's still like that piece of equipment that it's not only about the history that it has for you, or with you, is actually also that sound that you will say, or those errors that would be made with the sound that are so important to you.
My favorite one is like the EPS 16 Plus.
Okay.
And I still use like I was still using an ESX, but that was pretty much just because it was like so easy to use. With the EPS, I never got like the extra pieces to. I mean, come on, it's like something that was like made in like the 80s, so it's not exactly gonna have like a lot of storage space, and so to use other things became just more necessary. So like at the moment I started, I've been trying to integrate the Machina into it just because it's easier to carry around. Like, can you imagine like going on a tour through all of California on a bus, like with like big ass like EPS 16 plus, and you have like another suitcase with a whole bunch of like guitar pedals and a guitar and another like backpack which is like merch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that. That was my 20s.
Yeah. Yeah,
I was much skinnier then.
I mean, that's one of the difficult parts of touring with real instruments, and that's what it makes it also like so expensive, and that maybe a lot of people don't see like what the real work is behind a show sometimes. When you see, okay, there's one act that is playing alone on stage.
Yeah.
Maybe this act actually, all of this equipment is not something that was there.
Yeah.
Most of it is actually carried around.
Yeah.
And to have a great show, well, sometimes you do need all of this.
Yeah. I honestly had like a lot of like fun times with that though. Yo, I still remember there was this one time. So I used to do this thing that was like feedback manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
This was actually like a really good show. So in this time I was using like a lot more guitar and saxophone, but I still had this feedback manipulation. So I was doing a sound check. So remember feedback manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm trying to get them to test out the sound, I still remember it was not Houston, San Antonio. I still remember the sound engineer's name to this time. His name was Rudy.
Okay.
Like he was a bit like rounder, and he always had like a little bandana over his head. And I still remember him like looking in the back of the console, and he kept like plugging it in and plugging it out. And he kept like looking like, what is that? And he was like doing that for like an hour. And then he was just kind of like, I don't know what it is. And I could tell there was a certain amount of pride that was in it. He was like, he has to figure out what it is. But then I was like, oh, dude, that's actually like that's the sound that's supposed to be. Yeah. And then like he had like a big sigh of relief. But then he was just like, what the hell? Yeah.
Why are you doing this?
Yeah. But honestly, that was one of my favorite like shows. I guess the other part of the lineage of it too, I have to say, is with starting from hip hop. Around the time that I started to make, people started to have concerns about sample clearances and things of this nature.
Mm-hmm. No.
And I kind of like, I didn't even want to like deal with that. So being that I had, I realized that I pretty much sampled usually guitars, basses, and saxophone and keys. The thing is, I had already taken piano for I don't know how many years when I was younger, and if I'm thinking about it from the sense of like what was capable to be sampled at the time, but it's only like a small riff, I was like, why don't I just like play it out myself? And with saxophone, I used to play saxophone too, still do, and so that's how that part started. And with the bass and the guitars, I was just kind of like, it can't be that hard just to play a couple of notes, and then it didn't exactly go the way I maybe had planned initially, but then eventually, like I learned how to make it work, and then it actually developed into like another band format. Honestly, so yeah.
Do you have some of that you can play to me?
I do have some stuff somewhere. It's definitely on Bandcamp. Go to Bandcamp, eiliyasbandcamp.com.
That's
buy stuff. Yeah, no, I can definitely like show that to you. But I guess what I wanted to say is, so ultimately for me, the thing that I've kind of felt at that time, and for most of my life, I felt like the only way to get anything up, started, and going was to do it like by myself. I somehow like lost faith in others, and I did that for a long time. But at the same time, in the last maybe like 2 years, I've started to have more the feeling of it's better to have like a teamwork scenario to actually make things run more smoothly and make things happen. I guess I'm setting this up to say, you said something about you didn't plan on starting it by yourself. Like, what was like that initial plan? Did you have like a couple of other people that you were going to work with, and it just ended up being you, or?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking of actually doing this with someone else who knew how to do this.
Yeah.
So it was more that that feeling of, well, anyway, there's so many things I need to learn because the music industry is so, let's say, dynamic as well. Like, so many changes happen all the time. I was just thinking about, well, maybe it makes sense if I start this by asking other managers to see if they need help, and just try to start being like a junior manager with them or something, and or go to a record label and do something like this. I did try this.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that I still remember to this day one of the managers, are still a very dear friend of mine now, who at the time when I asked him, hey, can I, do you need someone? Can I just like start, working with you for almost like for nothing? I will just do like a kind of an internship and see like how things work. And then he just, I remember him just looking at me and saying like, dude, you have everything you need, just start. And if you have any questions, just ask me. That was for me just this kind of push that I didn't know that was so much of a like, oh, okay, what do you mean that I have what I... And I think looking back at it now, is realizing that this job is such a people's job, in the sense of it's more about trying to understand what the artistic vision of the artist is and trying to support this. So there's a lot of listening and acting as a soundboard to the artist in that sense. But it's also about being able to connect with all other people and learn from them. Without, just coming out of a university with a degree that just tells you this is what artist management is. And I know those places exist in the sense of there are some good schools where you can learn a lot about this, and it's great. I think that when people also do this, it's a privilege, so to speak, in a sense that you're able to go through a formal education for something like this, but it prepares you to a certain degree. There is another degree that is very personal, that doesn't have to do with the theoretical part of things of how music business works that you learned in school. Is more about being able to connect the dots and amplify a voice. And that's basically what I feel I've been attempting to do in the last 2.5 years, which is sometimes it has also taken a bit of a time for me to understand what it is. And I'm extremely grateful to the artists that I started to work with, that they also believed in me. So from the beginning, just telling me, hey, let's do this, even though, it's your first time, it's fine, we're going to grow together. And I found that to be really, really good. And also not being afraid of making too many mistakes. Is realizing, okay, if you fail, it's fine. We're probably going to survive. You're not, also something that calms me is the fact that, I'm not performing like heart surgery on someone through this job, which means, I will probably not kill somebody by doing this. I will probably hurt somebody. Maybe really badly, which I hope I don't do, but it's like there's not this fear of there's a bridge that will collapse or there's a person that will just die because of this directly. So also music has been such an essential part of my life, and I think you will realize this when you ask me, like, can you give me a couple of songs to that have been impactful in your life? And I couldn't decide. I have so many. Because it's just like it's a list of memories actually. It's a list of snapshots that have started since I'm a little kid until now that I'm 35, and it's this kind of thing of
Yeah.
trying to understand what that means. So, yeah, I think also one of my first memories is a musical memory.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's kind of a weird. I don't know if for you it was
No,
the
it's
same.
actually the same, honestly. Like, my earliest memories mostly are like musically related. Like whether it's like sitting in the back of like the family car and like listening to music that was being played, or whether it was before I can remember, and for some reason, um, my brother was actually talking to me about this last summer when I was in town, and there was this kind of thing. It was kind of like a big wicker key that my mom's had on the wall. That was kind of like this decoration. For some reason, like super young, I would actually like take that down and pretend like I was Hendrix.
Oh,
Yeah, and like maybe like when I was like around like 5, I would just like sit there and just like pretend like I'm like playing the guitar.
so Hendrix was being played in your house when you were as you were growing up, or
I don't even know how, like because I don't think my family was that huge into Hendrix. But I will also say that I remember that when Purple Rain came out,
Mm-hmm.
like I was actually already knowing who Prince was. Like I was already a huge fan of like 1999, and so yeah, Purple Rain came out when I was like 4.
Do you remember what your first cassette was?
Hell yeah, yeah, I remember my first cassettes actually.
That was
Okay. Oh, no, it wasn't. It wasn't Purple Rain, but yeah, I still like remember the first cassettes were actually kind of stolen from like my brother, but I didn't really have a way to play those as much. The first one that I bought with my own money, though,
That's
was
the one we
when I
remember.
was 8, and that was People's Instinctive Travels in the Paths of Rhythm from like Tribe Called Quest.
Wow.
And also Special Ed's Youngest in Charge. And yeah, those were the first 2 that I bought with my own money. Like I remember that by far. that was like a magical like time. Like
Did you have a
growing up.
Walkman?
Oh yeah, that was actually like exactly another reason why I got it. Like I did like to have Ninja Turtles and stuff like this, and like video games, but honestly, a lot of my extra income went to music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that was just it. Like that's not even like a question. The thing that actually made me not spend more money on music was when my parents didn't like something, and so like say for example, Public Enemy's like first album, but Yo Bum Rush the Show, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
before they got like super famous, there was the second song on there was like Sophisticated Bitch, and like my mom's was like, I actually have been listening to it, and I remember still to this day. I found it somewhere for like $5.99, and I was like, "Ooh, I can get this!" Like I was like kind of changed, like, "Yeah, I can get it." And so I got it, but then like once my mom's like realized that the word "bitch" was in the song, and there was like the name of the song, "Sophisticated Bitch," then she was like, "I don't want you to listen to a song that has like the word "bitch" in it." But I was like, "But I know what the word "sophisticated" is." Yeah, and she was like, "I don't care." So, yeah. So after that, I had to be very careful
Mm-hmm.
about what I had and what I brought around. And it wasn't until later that I started to just kind of be like, I really don't give a shit. Like I'm just gonna get it. Yeah.
Teenager, then 100%.
A little bit before
Having-
teenager. Yeah.
Fuck
Yeah.
authority and all of this stuff.
Yeah. What they gonna do? Throw it away? That's why That's why God made Maxwell blank tapes.
Mm.
Yeah, you make extras.
Exactly. Exactly. It's interesting when we feel, because with